What's up, guys? It's Dynasty with the Mountaintops back again for week 10 into 11. I am Mickey, joined with my co-host, Jeremy. How you doing tonight, my man?
Doing okay, man. We've hit double digits. Double digits on a pod weeks, double digits on the NFL season, double digits all around.
Yeah, it's bittersweet, man. We're coming down to the nitty-gritty here. Most playoffs, I know you're in one crazy league that starts like in 2 weeks, but most playoffs start week 15, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty stretch we're on here to see who's going to make the playoffs, who's not. We're going to help you out with that later on as well, but I'm pumped, man, for the NFL regular season just in general, and then fantasy on top of it. It's been a good year so far for sure.
Yeah, the league that you mentioned in playoffs is my back-to-back champ league. It's referred to on this one here. It's the one where I defended successfully last year, and I'm looking for the three-peats. So that starts. I have all but mathematically clinched the first round bye. So weeks 11 and 12, I should be sitting back and watching others squirm. So we'll see. Excuse me. So weeks 12 and 13, I'll be watching those squirm. Next week is our last regular season week 11.
That's crazy. Only 11 weeks in a regular season. That's nuts to me. That's fun though. Like that.
It makes it fun. It's kill or be killed, and you got to make your decisions when it's time. And look, the two week playoff has its pros and cons, but if I go all season and I face a 55-point Jonathan Taylor 1 week and my season's over, it's one thing, but he's got to do it 2 weeks in a row if I got to face Jonathan Taylor or anybody else of that nature. So you can kind of argue for and against the 2 week playoff, but if you're arguing for, you got to fire them up early.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is going to work out really well for you then while we're talking about trade deadline stuff today.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
You're running into the playoffs, right? So that's going to be the second half. I'm getting ahead of myself, but we're going to obviously talk about week 10, injuries, takeaways, standouts from the week that was, flex options for week 11, and then get into the nitty-gritty of who you want in your playoff run for the championship, for that chip that everyone wants and you want for the third time, right, man?
Right. They have to ride from my hand if they want it.
There you go. I'm working on 2 leagues that I'm trying to win it too. So this was fun to exercise for me as well. As we go down the stretch here, I'm in a normal. We're in normal leagues in my house, and we start week 15 for playoffs. So got a little bit more time and no trade deadline in both of those leagues as well. But I think that's more fun. But it would be interesting to have a trade deadline league as well.
If you want more curveballs, the championship league has a trade deadline which ends this Sunday. So the league that has the quote premature playoffs also has a trade deadline. So the league is actually quite busy this evening. There's a few things going on, some few inquiries going on. But yeah, come 11:59 Monday night, there'll be no trades in the Champ League, and the playoffs are locked simultaneously, so it should be pretty interesting.
Wow, that's crazy. Really early trade deadline too, which is kind of, makes sense because you're starting the playoffs early. You don't want to have the trade.
Correct.
If you're having a trade deadline, you don't want it to be right around the playoff, right when the playoffs start. So that makes sense. Really interesting, and that's late enough in the season though because that you'll understand who's in, who's kind of out because you only have 1 week left. So I love that. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Fun league to be a champion. Yeah, fun league to be a champion. But yeah, it's time to get to business. But not only for my league, where I'm defending champ, but for us, time to get down to business.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about week 10. We're going to start off negative, talk about the injuries. If I miss any, please let me know because I didn't really watch last night. But Jackson Dart, concussion. This is the 4th evaluation he's had this year from what Schefter said. Not likely to play is how I usually categorize it. I haven't heard anything different as to if he's playing or not. We have to hear from the coach, and we'll talk about that in just a minute.
I haven't heard much of the Jackson Dart situation. I would assume he doesn't play. Usually, once they get deemed in the concussion protocol, it's at least a week out. And to your point, with this being multiple evaluations, I can see them playing this one close to the chest and even maybe having him sit out 2 weeks. So we'll have to see how this goes.
Typically, that's what we say. We say the concussion is usually you're not going to play the next week. There's really a lot of data backing that up, but every so often you do get away with it. Moving on, we have Dalton Kincaid with a hamstring. Again, haven't heard much on that, but we'll talk about that in a minute, I'm sure. Devontae Adams, oblique injury. McVay said he could have returned if needed, but he also said that about Puka when Puka left or didn't play the next week. So who knows what McVay actually means by that. Garrett Wilson, another knee injury, likely out week 11 is what I'm hearing. Rashad Bateman had a walking boot after the game, even though he played the whole game. He was spotted in the locker room having a walking boot. I don't know what that's about, but haven't heard too much about that as well. Was there anything I missed? And also, if yes, let us know. And if not, what really spoke to you this week on the injuries?
Nothing came to mind really what you missed. The Jackson Dart one hits close to home, not only because I have 3 out of 4 leagues. I have a share of Jackson Dart, but I hate to see young guys with the concussion issues. Tua comes to mind. And, his career's already being deemed abbreviated and shortened because of them. So, I hope that they approach these ones cautiously with Jackson. The Garrett Wilson one concerns me a little bit. I'm hearing 3 to 4 weeks from Garrett Wilson. And when you're a 2-7 Jets team with a suspect field and a guy coming in for a knee injury in a season that's already going to be extinguished after 3-4 weeks from now, we might have seen the last of Garrett Wilson for the season. I'm not saying that that's official, but that's just my gut assumption that they take this one seriously, especially with the field conditions. But yeah, other than that, some big names, but nothing in regards to season ending, at least officially.
Yeah, right. I mean, like you said, Garrett Wilson, who I was planning on talking about later in the show, but you bring up a good point. They're 1-8, 2-7, whatever their record is, and he's missed earlier in the season already 3 or 4 games. He's missing this week, probably the next couple, maybe another game or two. When you just shut him down and say, "Hey, let's play next year," that would be my question on that one. Same with Jackson Dart, to be honest with you. 4 concussions in a year when you're going nowhere, no Malik Neighbors, no Cam Scadaboo. You're going to have a good pick in the draft next year. Your defense isn't that terrible. Might have to work on that a little bit, but you're bringing a young nucleus together, and the quarterback is the catalyst. And then you're going to let him keep playing for a team that's going nowhere this year instead of just letting Russell Wilson finish the year or Jameis Winston, whoever you decide. Let him throw the ball around a little bit. It would just be a surprise to me. That's all.
Couldn't agree more.
I know that hurts your Jackson Dart share. So for fantasy, I hope that's not the case because I love Jackson Dart in fantasy. Don't get me wrong. But in reality, when do you say, okay, we saw enough. He's our dude. He's going to be fine moving forward, especially if we get another receiver for him, Malik Neighbors, Cam Scadaboo, and Tracy behind him. That is an offense that can run for next year, and his defense is only getting better. So,
hey, this is the dynasty for me. This is not a redraft, so I need to have these assets carry me into the following years. If that's the case for Jackson Dart, then that's the case for Jackson Dart. I process health insurance for a living, and I talk football with you fine people. I don't know anything else about football, so I can't really make the call.
No, I get it. Absolutely. And then a couple updates for injuries. Joe Burrow is expected to be on the practice field this week, which is really good for the Bengals. I don't know where their season's at. Since the AFC North is so bad, they might have a chance to win it if he comes back with his toe injury. And then Brock Purdy with his toe injury. Shanahan says he has a real chance to return this week. But with how good Mac Jones is playing, I'm not sure what's going on there. So we'll see. But just wanted to keep those 2 updates for you. Those were the 2 biggest names that I saw that could be coming back this week. So anything else you wanted to talk about injury-wise?
No, I think we nailed it on all the big ones here. It's exciting to see Joe Burrow actually have a chance to come back, and he kind of said something a little bit more in professional sentiments as you, that the AFC North is what it is this year, and that's what led to him coming back. So we'll see exactly what he does. But yeah, I'm interested to see these 2 side by side, honestly. because Brock Purdy had a not as severe, but a very, very, very near identical injury to Joe Burrow had. Burrow opted to have surgery. Purdy did not, and they've missed probably about the same games. Maybe Purdy's played one extra one. So,
well, Purdy tried to come back. Purdy tried to come back. That's the difference, I think.
Right. Yes, he came back for one game and then re-aggravated it. So I'm curious to see what happens with a little bit of rest and relaxation versus a surgically repaired one, and we're going to be able to potentially see them side by side here.
Yeah, and the last thing I'd say about those two are both backups are playing pretty well. It's not their fault that they're losing games. Let me put it that way. Say it nicely.
Well said.
About the defense.
Well said. Well said. Well said. Both teams have struggled defensively, not offensively, with the absence of the starting quarterback.
Right, absolutely, and they both have good offenses there. So we're going to move into the takeaways. The first one is if you watched any games this week, you know exactly what position mattered to it, like without question, especially 4 guys. So running backs absolutely owned the week. 4 top point scorers in every single league that I saw were all running backs, which is unheard of with how quarterback points are, especially rushing quarterback points. But Jonathan Taylor, insane week. He got me 60 points in the league. Achane, 40 points in the league. Gibbs, on the same team as Jonathan Taylor, which was a good week for me, 40-some points on a week. And then Henderson, who I don't have, unfortunately, but absolutely love, also in that 30 to 35 points, I think. And they were all top 4 scorers. The next person was, of course, the tight end, who's insane, Trey McBride. But so no quarterbacks in the top 5 this week, which was insane to me. Did you see the same thing?
No, yeah, obviously, yeah. It's the same thing. And the running backs swung a lot of these matchups. There was a lot of matchups where the running back solely was the key contributor to the win. And it's hard to come back. It's hard to go against one player hitting 51 points. Like it's hard unless you have one of those other guys. You lost this week. It's basically how it is.
Yeah, like I said, I had two players on one team, and they literally outscored the other person by themselves. So everything was just gravy because they played so well. They scored 100 points. Like, that's insane. 2 players scoring 100 points by themselves. Just an incredible week for the running back. So I wanted to shout out them before we give our shout outs later on. Second off is kind of more an NFL thing, but it was just rallying my brain this week with how good the Patriots are playing. In Miami, seems to be coming back, but Miami just beat Buffalo. Is Buffalo in trouble? Like, I'm shocked by this. I thought Buffalo was going to roll this division. I liked the Patriots a little bit, but didn't think they were going to be like this. The rush defense is super suspect. 5th most rush yards allowed. Tied 2nd most rush touchdowns allowed. 3rd most rushes over 20-plus yards allowed. Like, their rush defense is an absolute joke. Now, their pass defense is really good, but why would you pass when you can run the ball all over them, is my question. So, again, my question to you, is this real, or do you think this is fake? Like, Buffalo's going to be there at the end? Like everyone.
I think Buffalo's going to be there at the end, but I do think this is real. And so let me answer that question twice. Buffalo's too good of a team to miss out on the playoffs, and Buffalo's too good of a team and too good of a record right now to be any type of threat and potentially miss the playoffs. However, you do have the 5-4 Chiefs currently outside looking in. The AFC is no joke this year. You have the Broncos. You have the Colts coming out of nowhere. I don't care who you are. You weren't calling the Colts to be number 1 going into Week 11. Not a soul.
Maybe Pat McAfee.
Maybe Pat McAfee. Good call.
Yeah. But that's bias.
And that gentleman, that pudgy gentleman that sings the jingle every week. This is our Colts. This is our team. That guy was all in. He was in. But nevertheless, so I think we need to trick here, but I do think Buffalo is going to be okay to get in, but to consider themselves as the AFC playoffs are going to go through Buffalo, or Buffalo has extinguished this Chiefs burst of not being able to pass. They got another thing coming, because if they can handle the Chiefs, so be it. But you got other teams that they need to handle, and right now, like you said, they struggle to handle the Miami Dolphins, who have really nothing to lose, nothing to win for, or nothing to lose against. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on. They need to continue to do what Buffalo does, and that is rely on Josh Allen and rely on James Cook and start winning something and continue winning these games, because the teams around them are what's going to push them into the bubble.
Yeah, and there are 10 teams right now that I actually can think in my head that are playoff potential. And I added one because of the Burrow possibility of coming back in the Bengals. I wouldn't normally have them, but they're only 2 games out of first place in their division, and Burrow might be coming back. That's a huge benefit.
That game, not to get too sidetracked here, but that game this weekend's massive. It's bigger. It's bigger than what the Steelers want to admit it is, and it's pretty much the season for the Cincinnati Bengals. That game this weekend is biggie.
Yeah, it's really big. You can keep the Cincinnati Bengals at bay if you win that game for the Steelers. That's absolutely right. And the division is going to be won between the Baltimore Ravens. If they can keep them at bay, the division is going to be won between the Baltimore Ravens versus the Steelers twice left for the rest of the season. But does another team get in from that division? There's two teams in the South. I never thought I'd say that. Possibly 3 now that I think about it, with the Jacksonville Jaguars somehow being having a winning record. You have 3 teams in the West. You have 2 teams in the East, all vying for playoff positions, and it's just absolutely insane to me. And I think this is a testament to how good the AFC is, but also how bad the top teams typically started the year, so they had to fight their way back, and they are now, but they gave some other teams life. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. It makes for absolute spectacular end of the season football. The only ones who are going to benefit from this are us, the fans, because it's going to be interesting, it's going to be fun, and it's going to be absolutely nail biting to watch all the way to the end.
Absolutely. Like I said, I know it's more NFL than fantasy for this, but I just saw what happened this past weekend against Miami, and that's a team you can't lose to middle of the season when you're coming back to try to win a division or at least make the playoffs in the wild card. That's a team you can't lose to, and they did. So it worried me a little bit for Buffalo. And then you had one more that we kind of talked about earlier, but didn't really say what the big story was there. So if you want to go ahead with that.
Yeah, another lead into real life football here is we lost another head coach. Brian Daboll from the New York Giants was fired the other day. He's the second head coach this season to be fired. Going in, they're presently at 2-8. Out of those 8 losses, 5 of those are blown leads. Out of 4 games, he had 26 designated runs for Jackson Dart. And now we have Jackson Dart under his 4th evaluation for concussions. So, I mean, as much as I was a Daboll fan, and as much as I am a fan of head coaches being hanging around rookie quarterbacks, this one was one that was just too hard to pass up. There's some other looks into this, though. Jackson Dart, Bryce Young, Trevor Lawrence, Cam Ward, Caleb Williams, Drake May. That's just the past 2 years, past 3 years. All those guys were first overall quarterbacks or first round quarterback drafts that had their coach fired the following year or same year. So that tells me that we could have some development problems with all this NIL stuff and these guys not staying into college or anything like that. So that's another day. It's another debate. But we lost Daboll. He's off to better pastures. He's no longer coaching the New York Football Giants, and we have yet another coach gone to a first-year quarterback.
Yeah, and a couple things here for me. When you put this on our spreadsheet, I was like, yes, absolutely. I want to talk about this too, because like I said earlier, you have no coach. Your quarterback's concussion worried. I'd be worried about his concussions already. 7 games into his career? And already having 4, that's more than 1 every other game. That's a little worrisome. You have no wide receiver. right now. You have no number one running back. Your defense is not playing as well as you anticipated on the run game. Yeah, they can get to the quarterback, but after that, they can't really do much after that. And somehow the GM stayed lost by that. But regardless, there's nothing there for him. Why not? This is the fantasy piece that I kind of am thinking is I think it makes more sense for Dart to be on the bench right now. And unfortunately, if you have Dart and you got lucky and you're in playoff mode with Dart, I apologize ahead of time, but I think that makes the most sense for a dynasty league to hope that happens so that he doesn't get hurt even worse and is out for next year. And hopefully it can all come back together next year and we'll be guns a-blazing with those three horses leading the way and maybe even more.
They could be a really fun team to watch next year. I'm not being biased, but they were starting already this year. To have them now all come back healthy, plus neighbors and everything, Giants are going to be a fun one to watch beginning of the season.
And I know it's early, but also there's a lot of talk about the Giants more than likely are going to take an early wide receiver because there's a lot of them out there as a possibility. So, and they're going to have their pick of the litter. So that might be another possibility too in the first or second round. They get another wide receiver who Wan'Dale Robinson then becomes your third, and then he's relevant, in my opinion. So that might help them as well. So we all kind of knew Brian Daboll was on the hot seat going into this year. That's why we're surprised how quickly he switched to Dart because he didn't have much time left. I kind of wish he would have stayed. I kind of wish they wouldn't have fired him because he had something with Dart in this team.
Yes, agreed.
But we'll see who's going to be the new coach next year. The interim head coach, I think, is the offense coordinator. I could be wrong. I didn't really pay too much attention to that because they're 2-8. So it really doesn't matter who the offense coordinator or who the head coach, quote unquote, is. But that's enough about actual football. Let's talk about some more fantasy wise here. We'll talk about our standouts. So first off, I had Jared Goff, quarterback 5, 25 of 33 for 320 yards and 3 touchdowns. He is just starting to play like the Jared Goff we've seen in the past. He had a little bit of a slow start, but he has very much so picked it up recently as well. And then we have Davis Mills, quarterback 1. Yes, I said Davis Mills, quarterback 1. I'm shocked myself. But C.J. Stroud was out this game, and another backup came into play. 27 to 45, threw the ball 45 times for a backup. That's a lot. 292 yards, 2 touchdowns, threw an interception, but also 3 carries for 20 yards and a touchdown. And that touchdown run, he just got in, but it had to happen because that's how they won the game. Big time play at the end of the day. So those are my 2 quarterback standouts. Not much to say about them. Just like I always love to see when a backup shows up, especially one that everyone's kind of written away, which has happened quite a lot this year. So it was nice to see Davis Mills as quarterback 1 this week.
Yeah, it was a great call, and I'm glad he got a mention here. Quarterback 1 is crazy to think that that's what he captured, but I mean the stats don't lie, and I'm glad you mentioned the rush because I remember watching that one live on Red Zone, and it was by the skin of his teeth, but he stuck his neck out and got the touchdown. So yeah, well done, Davis Mills.
Yeah, as a Woody Marks owner, I was not so happy, but sometimes the quarterback gets it.
Hey, sometimes it happens. My two are Mac Jones. He was quarterback 6 for the San Francisco 49ers. He went 33 out of 39 pass attempts, 319 yards passing for 3 touchdowns. He did have 1 lone pick. He did have a rush for 3 yards, but that's not Mac Jones' style. He's a pocket passer, and he's been doing it quite well to what you've mentioned earlier above when we were talking about Purdy. I hope the absolute best for Purdy, but I do also hope that Mac Jones gets another week. I think he deserves it. There's no need to rush Purdy back if you have quarterback play that is being substantial. Like you said, to your point, it was not Mac Jones in regards to why they lost that game. So the second one is number 9 in your programs, number 1 in my heart, as always, Mr. Matthew Stafford, quarterback number 2 of the week. He went 24 for 36, 280 yards passing for another 4-touchdown day. This will be his third day. This is his third of the season where he's had 4 or more touchdowns. He has 25 touchdowns, which is first and lead in all quarterbacks. He has 25 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and he is currently 4th on total yards of 2,427. So Matthew Stafford had another fine game, showing that all of those back issues that were being talked about earlier at the beginning of the season were moot, and he is having himself a second resurgence prime career, similar to what we saw with Aaron Rodgers, in my opinion. And I'm looking forward to seeing how he continues to carry it on the rest of this season.
Yeah, they always say in fantasy, if the only way a non-passing or non-rushing quarterback can succeed is if he throws a lot of touchdowns and throws for over 4,000 yards consistently every year, maybe even 5,000. And Matthew Stafford's doing that. So
it's insane.
He's been in the top 10, like it seems, every single week. And for not being able to run at all, and I mean at all, Joe Flacco runs more than him. He has absolutely been successful in fantasy this year, and it's crazy to see because I kind of wrote him off being one of those people who agree that rushing quarterbacks are the way to go, but he has absolutely stepped up. And the Mac Jones, he deserves a starting job next year. Like I've seen enough. I was never really a Mac Jones fan, but from what he's done this past year with the 49ers, I think he deserves a starting job. But we'll see what happens next year. I'm sure there's going to be a few openings next year, so we'll see if he gets one of those.
Kind of got vibes of like the whole Sam Darnold situation, kind of like that whole resurgence again. As he's coming into his own, and he deserves a starting role, and I think he's going to get it.
That's a great call, bringing up the Darnold comparison. I love that.
So let's transition into running backs here. I'm going to talk about two totally different style games, but I wanted to give both equal credit. The first one is Tyler Algier. He came in at running back 7. I wanted to give him a shout out here because he's overshadowed by Bijan Robinson every single week. But dude came out and had 57 all-purpose yards. 41 of those were in the red zone, and he had 2 touchdowns. Like that is an insane day if you have any inkling whatsoever and you played him. Most likely he was on a lot of your benches, being the handcuff that he is. But again, 57 yards, 41 of those in the red zone, and 2 touchdowns. Fantastic day for Tyler Algier. The one I wanted to mention again is somebody who I have been bad on and who have been down on in the past years is Jonathan Taylor, your running back 1 of the day. Once again, the running back 1 of the week. I wanted to highlight him just to kind of reiterate that we are witnessing a potential history-making season where we could have a running back come in as an MVP. Now, a few weeks ago, I mentioned Jonathan Taylor and CMC. CMC is, in my opinion, doing a little bit more in regards to passing and receiving and rushing. But Jonathan Taylor's numbers have just been absolutely ballooned over everybody. 286 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 receptions. He's catching balls from the backfield as well. He's just doing it all, and he's doing it again with absolute balloon-type numbers. Almost 300 yards on the ground rushing in just 1 week is just astronomical. 3 touchdowns. To your point, he was, 51 points in some of these leagues here. League winner here, and if you have him, hold on to him and cherish him.
Yeah, what he's doing right now is absolutely insane. 3 touchdowns a week, it almost seems like, except for against the Steelers somehow. Don't know how that happened. But we'll move on. Absolutely, and I love Tyler Algier getting the love. Just like I said about Mac Jones, it's kind of certain at this point. Like he's better than some starters at this point. I think he's just behind Bijan Robinson, who's one of the best running backs in the game, and he was able to shine a little bit extra Algier this past week. So love both picks for sure. For me, I went with two guys we already talked about for a minute, but Devon Achane, one of my favorite players, as probably everybody that listens to this podcast knows. Running back Q on the week, 22 carries for 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, 6 for 6 in receptions for another 51 yards. And he is just absolutely an insane piece of the offense for the Dolphins. When in doubt, they give it to Achane. It feels like 28 touches, and he caught every single ball that came to him. So you don't think they're going to keep throwing to him? They're definitely going to. So 28 touches, number 2 on the week. And then Trevion Henderson, welcome to the NFL. It is about time. It took Stevenson being hurt, of course, but it happened. Running back 4 on the week, 14 carries, 147 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also caught his lone pass for 3 yards as well. And I'm sure if they let him play more, they're going to do more passing out of the backfield as well, because he can do really well catching the ball out of the backfield. But 14 carries for 147 yards. That's over 10 yards a carry. Insane. Yeah, I know. Smart math real quick.
Hey,
but just an absolutely incredible day for him. It was a welcome to the NFL moment. And I think, like we talked about before with some other guys, he's out of the bottle. I don't think you can get him back in, especially for Mondre Stevenson. Just my opinion.
No, I think it's an opinion shared by many. This day was coming. A lot of Henderson owners were a little bit bleak in regards to when, but this day was coming and it's here. He so 150 yards rushing or something, 2 touchdowns. Like it's you can't. I like the way you worded that perfectly. You can't put him back in the bottle. Jennings had himself 4 or 5 quarters of flash, but this is now the Henderson show, and Stevenson's gonna have to take back up here.
No, I can't agree more. Absolutely, I'm so excited to finally see this happen. I don't think Vrabel's going to be able to put him back on the bench anymore, so we'll see when Stevenson comes back. But if you wanted to try to get Henderson, good luck now, because I don't think you're the guy's been waiting this long who owns him. I don't think you're going to be able to get him. Last week was the last chance you had, unless you're going to pay the premium price. For wide receivers, I have another guy who usually is not talked about, but you have a team with Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones. We'll even say Jordan Mason, who kind of is slowing down a little bit, and TJ Hawkinson. However, Jalen Naylor is wide receiver 2 on the week, 5 of 6, 224 yards and a touchdown. JJ McCarthy, I guess. I have no idea what's going on. Maybe they were both covered all day. 2 of the best receivers in the NFL. I don't know. But Jalen Naylor had a day, wide receiver 2, and wanted to give him a shout out for sure. Don't know how much this is going to move forward, but it's nice to see once in a while someone random coming into it there, like the 6th option on the team, which is kind of interesting. Another guy who's not the number 1 option, probably not the number 2 or 3 either, Jameson Williams, wide receiver 3 on the week, 6 of 7 for 119 yards and a touchdown. This is his 2nd week in a row in the top 10, I believe. 3 of the last 4 in the top 15 or 20. He's starting to find it since the bye week, and if he finds it, that could be dangerous for anybody playing the Detroit Lions.
No, great call, and I think he really started taking a step up right when Dan Campbell took over the play calling. Dan Campbell took over the offensive play calling, and Jameson ended up having 5 receptions after that. So wheels up on Jameson. Let's go. And props to you. He was one of your flex plays last week. I wanted to give a credit to the listeners here. Jameson Williams was one of your must play flex plays, and he stood out. And again, wide receiver 3 in the day. So great call, Mr. Williams there.
Yeah, we've been getting lucky on those the last couple of weeks, especially the number 1.
Yeah. Speaking of number 1, wide receiver 1 is the guy who I want to shout out, Drake London. He went 6 for 8, 104 yards receiving on the day just the other day in week 10, and he had himself a receiving touchdown. If anybody saw it, there was a catch and he got landed right on top of his head. He ended up going into the tent a little bit because he got squished, but he held up and he held the ball and the touchdown held up. And Drake London got 104 yards receiving in the day. So props to Drake London, wide receiver 1. The next wide receiver I wanted to talk about was wide receiver 9, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Seems like he comes up on this list a few times. It's definitely not his first time on here for either one of us, but he had a very similar stat line as Drake London. He went 5 for 6 for 93 yards and a touchdown, and he was wide receiver 9 on the day, which again just shows the kind of a day that we had in week 10. Wide receiver 1 again was Drake London with 6 for 8 for 104 and a tutty. JSN went 5 for 6, 93 and a tutty. Very similar stat lines, yet they're 8 wide receiver separations. So we had ourselves a very lucrative Monday.
No, that's a great point. These are two guys that we expect to be on here almost weekly, and Jackson Smith has been arguably the best wide receiver in the game this year. Only argument is Puka, and he hasn't been to every single game. So I think JSN might be it. And Drake London, he's coming on strong in the second half. So fun to see what him and Penix are going to do coming down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Next thing I wanted to do is transition into our tight ends. Tight end 6 of the day was Cade Otton. He had 12 targets. Now, Cade Otton's not one that normally gets talked about enough in regards to your elite tight ends. It's because he is a very situational tight end. Cade Otton shows up and balls when there is a wide receiver or 2 down. If Mike Evans or Godwin are down or Ibuka's down, you can rely on Cade Otton to get at least yourself some 6-7 targets. When you have 2 down, you're looking at a dozen targets like he had just this past Sunday. He went 9 for 12 for 82 yards. Didn't get on the touchdown sheet, but 82 yards and 12 targets is a substantial day for a tight end, especially in any type of tight end premium leagues. But when you're talking about elite tight ends, the only one that really would come to mind, of course, is Mr. O'Reliable, George Kittle, tight end 2 of the day. He caught all 9 targets to him. Again, shout out Mac Jones. He went 9 for 9. He had 84 yards and a touchdown on the day. George Kittle showing right back into where he left off pre-injury and balling every day that he can.
Yeah, George Kittle blocked a couple weeks coming back, but he's been really good as of late. Really good. So I love that. And then Cade Otton, you're absolutely right. When there's 1 or 2 guys down for the wide receiving core for the Bucs, man, he just absolutely shows up, which is awesome to see. He's old reliable for Mayfield, as you were to say there about Kittle. However, I will say there's one other really reliable tight end, and he was tight end 1 again this week, Trey McBride. 9 for 13, 127 yards and a touchdown with 2 different quarterbacks. Listen to this. Only 1 week outside the top 15. Only 3 weeks outside the top 6 tight ends for Trey McBride. He is absolutely by far the best tight end points-wise in fantasy. I think it's by 40 now. Ferguson was there because he was so high for a while. Had so many points for a while, but has kind of slowly fell off. And Trey McBride,
CeeDee Lamb came back.
That's a great point. CeeDee Lamb came back, and what we said, there's only 2 players that can really succeed in that offense, receiving-wise, and it's obviously going to be Pickens, and Lamb is what it looks like, and Ferguson's a little bit further down. That's a great point. But Trey McBride, you cannot talk about this guy enough. What he's doing this year is absolutely insane. Now, it's not Kelsey level of when he was in his prime, but he's only in his, 3rd, 4th year? So let's see. It might get there. So we might have 2 generational tight ends in the same generation, which is pretty sweet to see. Dalton Schultz, tight end 4 on the week. He has been, since the bye week and coming back, top 10 3 of the last 4 weeks. I think that has something to do with Nico not being fully 100%. They're not trusting these rookies quite yet. So who's left? Like you keep saying, old reliable. I will go back to that phrase. Dalton Schultz has just been reliable for anybody and everybody who is a quarterback for him throughout his entire career. And 7 of 11, 53 yards and a touchdown. 53 yards doesn't seem like much, but when you, like you said with Otton, when you're getting 11 targets and catching 7 of them, the quarterback's going to keep throwing them to you, and you catch a touchdown in the red zone, good things are going to happen. So those are my 2 shout-outs, and I could talk about Trey McBride for one entire podcast, how good this guy's been. And it's been with Jacoby Brissett, who no one's going to say he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And it's been with Kyler Murray, who no one's going to say he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league, except for maybe me. So, like, he's doing this with subpar performance and still absolutely dominating. And I absolutely love it.
No, great call. Trey McBride's the tight end one. And my champ league that was referenced at the beginning of the pod, I've latched on to him all year, and I haven't looked back. He's an absolute stud, and he's only gotten better with Jacoby in there. He seems like he's getting more consistent targets. He's getting more consistent red zone targets. I'm all aboard the Trey McBride wagon.
The biggest difference with Jacoby is he's actually catching touchdowns. He caught very little with Kyler. So that is a huge difference, and that's why those points are even more astronomical than they were with Kyler. So
that's what happens when your quarterback can see over your offensive line to pass you the ball. So,
ouch. All right, we're going to move on to flex options for Week 11. That was great. We only have 2 teams on a bye, and even though there's a lot of names, it's not as big of a deal except for in one position as you think. Indianapolis Colts, Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, that's a huge deal. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Tyler Warren, they're all pass catchers that you probably are putting in your flex or close to it or thinking about it. That's why we want to talk about them real quick. And then New Orleans Saints, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Jawan Johnson, that's about it. I'm not even going to say who the quarterback. Well, Tyler Shuck had a good week, so maybe Tyler Shuck too, if you trust in him. But not too many players on a bye. Only got 2 teams this week that are on that bye. So I found that my names are a little bit higher up than they normally are. So I think you kind of did the same as well. So we're going to start out with the top 5 options. Number 5 for Jeremy. Hit me, man.
Number 5, I'm going to throw him on this list here, and somebody we're going to talk about in a little bit, so I don't want to go too hard on him, but A.D. Mitchell. Yes, A.D. Mitchell, that A.D. Mitchell, who's just traded to the New York Jets, A.D. Mitchell. He was just traded there from the Colts to the Jets to help complement Garrett Wilson, who is now out for 4 weeks. So, again, that is an official time frame that he's out 3 to 4 weeks. He has shown ability. A.D. Mitchell, that is, pronouns pal. He's shown ability to get open. He does all kinds of routes. He does from deep routes to fades, slants, digs. He kind of did it all, but he just was buried in a depth chart. So it shows that he's more of a one-trick pony. And New England, the opponent New England they have a solid defense, but their pass defense is definitely their weak spot. They have 2,409 yards against and 18 touchdowns against, which is about 5th in the league. So New England's defense is pretty solid, but their absolute weakest spot is their secondary, and I think A.D. Mitchell could capitalize on that, especially with minimal miles to feed in New York.
I love this call. Even before I knew that Garrett Wilson was out, I love this call. But now that I know Garrett Wilson's out, there's absolutely nobody else to throw the ball to wide receiver-wise. This is a great call. A.D. Mitchell, he actually got taken off of my list because you had him on it. There's another guy that we'll talk about the same thing, but that's a great call. For me, number 5, this is the guy who I replaced with him. And I don't know if you can consider this guy a flex or not, but his stats right now say he should be a flex. So we're going to say Jordan Addison's a flex this week. Is playing the Bears defense, who led up the most 20-plus yard receptions allowed, which is 36. The Bears defense is not very good against wide receivers. Now, who knows? Jalen Naylor might be the one who succeeds on that, so I don't know. But I get a feeling if Jalen Naylor had a huge week this past week, they're going to try to feed Jefferson and or Addison a little bit more, especially with a suspect defense. And JJ is going to be able to get the ball out to his 2 dogs. So Jordan Addison's my number 5.
Love the Addison call. And in my opinion, if you're a wide receiver 2, a bona fide wide receiver 2, which he is, he's never going to be one unless Jefferson's hurt, you're going to be a flex candidate. So I fully support adding him onto this list. I'm still going to, speaking of adding to this list, I'm going to go 4th here. I'm going to go with Corey Cross at Merritt, JCM, Bill, whatever you want to call him. Mr. Hotshot at the beginning of the season is definitely taking a fallen back here, but I'm going to have a little bit more faith in him just for a little bit longer. Week 10, Bill saw increased touches. when Chris Rodriguez went out. And from what I understand, Rodriguez is still battling a shoulder injury, so that's just going to increase some touches here for Bill. He did have 4 out of 6 games he has had double-digit carries, even with Rodriguez and McNichols involved in the backfield. And even in that first game, Eckler was involved as well. And also against Miami offers the third most rushing yards with a juicy 4.9 yards per carry and 10 rushing touchdowns against. So I like him going against Miami Dolphins.
You had me at Miami, bro. That's all you had to say on that one. That's a guarantee start for Big Bill. 4 for me is someone we've talked about in the past, but he's the number 1 now, Trey Tucker. And the only reason I picked him was because guess who he's playing, Jeremy? Cowboys defense, if you can tell. Second most receiving touchdowns allowed in 22. Number 1 wide receiver since Jacoby left, as I said before. I am a Jack Dash guy. I still think he's going to end up being the guy to have out of the 3 that they have currently. He just has not gotten there yet. So until he does, I think Trey Tucker is going to be the number 1. Obviously, Brock Bowers is going to be a huge factor in this game because the Cowboys can't stop anything. So how are they going to stop arguably one of the best players in football? But I think Trey Tucker is also going to be able to go down the field a little bit and get past that subpar defensive backs. So I have Trey Tucker at number 4.
I love Trey Tucker. I have him in one of my leagues for this reason. That's Jacoby's gone. Wheels up on Trey Tucker. My number 3 is actually going to be within the same game as JCM. I'm going to go on the opposite side of the ball. I'm going to go with Malik Washington. Tyreek Jr. is what they like to identify him as. He is their number 2 behind Jalen Waddle, a clear number 2 as well. His target floor has risen. In my opinion, he's a low-end option. He's received 29 targets in 6 games, with 2 of them being touchdowns. And they're going against the Commanders team, who have allowed the most receiving yards against, with the highest yards per reception. And they also have they're tied with the most touchdowns against, with 22 passing touchdowns against. So I'm going to go with Malik Washington in a potential game. I don't want to call it a shootout where you're having 48 to 45 points scored between Tua and Mariota, but I do like this game to have some offensive points scored due to the lack of defense.
And this is a juicy matchup outside of flex for your guaranteed starters because both defenses are absolutely jokes. Miami's getting a little bit better, but Commanders keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and they keep falling down the ranks. They might even be lower than the Cowboys now in most categories, which is scary. So absolutely wheels up on Malik Washington. Number 3, this is not the last time you're going to hear me say or be a homer in this segment. However, Jaylen Warren, Cincinnati is going against the Bengals defense. And again, Bengals defense, kind of self-explanatory. But second most rush yards allowed in 1,498. Tied 4th most rush touchdowns in 12. Jaylen Warren finally got off the schneid 2 weeks ago against the Colts. Find the end zone, so I think he might do it again this week. And then tied third most 20-plus tied third most 20-plus yard rushes at 10 for the season. So that's at least one a week, and I think Jaylen Warren could easily do that as well. I look forward to whoever has Jaylen Warren, fire him up.
Yeah, he's unfortunately, as a follower of the team, the Cincinnati Bengals, they are one of those defenses this year that if you have a player going against them, you're putting them in regardless. So full support on Jaylen Warren getting added, especially now that he is coming off one of his better games of the season. My number 2 is going to be somebody who we were in agreement with. I'm going to go with Woody Marks. You can't not put him on any type of these lists, or you cannot put him on your radar. He's just so versatile. How he can contribute in both the receiving game and the rushing game. It raises his floor, obviously, and then all types of fantasy scoring by the way that he's able to play. He nearly 80% of the snaps in Week 10. He ran for 14 times for 63 yards and a touchdown. His increase is obviously impacting Nick Chubb, who has become almost irrelevant now at this point. And they're going against the Titans. The Titans have allowed the most rushing touchdowns for running backs this season. They've given up 12, including this past Week 10. And they also have the second most fantasy points per game to the position of running back. So it looks like a very favorable matchup for Woody Marks, one of which I do expect him to exploit.
It's really funny. I actually had Nick Chubb as the flex option at first, and then I looked at just to see because I knew Woody Marks was kind of coming on him. I didn't know that they actually flipped on carries now, where Woody Marks actually is catching the ball out of the backfield and has more carries than Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
So, absolutely love Woody Marks. I was excited for him, kind of like when Damian Pierce came in. There was a void to fill his rookie year, and he was able to fill it for the first 13 weeks. I think there's a void to fill, and Woody Marks is able to fill it really well, and he's going up against a team who's basically done. They're just playing for next year at this point in the Tennessee Titans, so I love that call. Number 2 for me, Christian Watson, Giants defense. This could be any Green Bay Packer wide receiver that you decide you want to choose. However, I just went with Christian Watson. So, allowing the Giants are allowing the 4th most receiving yards, 2,461, and Christian Watson's actually played pretty well since he's come back. He's kind of been the leading receiver for them, especially with Tucker Kraft now out. He should be the one getting the targets, and until Jayden Reed comes back, I think he is the number one. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but that's who I would fire out this week out of the Green Bay Packers.
No, I like the call. I like what you said. You nailed all the points I would have. I think you could put any Green Bay Packer here, but I think if I had 10 opportunities to put a Packer here presently, it would be Watson 10 times out of 10. Golden's not 100%. Reed's not obviously playing. Watson's been, like you mentioned, he's coming into his own. And he's been playing really well since he's returned. And there is still no bona fide wide receiver 1 on that team. So let him come out and stand out against the leaky pass defense with a obscure weird week losing a head coach. My number 1 is going to be Stephon Diggs, wide receiver out of the New England Patriots. His high target volume, he's scored now 3 weeks in a row, and he had a very favorable matchup against the Jets. He's been involved in the passing game and a very promising passing game with Drake May and the New England Patriots. And like I mentioned, he's scoring touchdowns, and he's 3 games. He's in a 3-game touchdown consecutive streak. The Jets have also allowed the resurgence of Jerry Jeudy and other players. Jerry Jeudy was just last week, and mind you, they lost Sauce Gardner, their best defensive player, one would argue. Diggs has developed a rapport with the Patriots quarterback Drake May, and the Patriots offensive line's also ranked in the top 10 unit. So Drake May has that time, and Stephon Diggs has been not been Mr. Flashy, but he's been Mr. Consistent, and that's what I'm looking for in a flex position.
He also catches almost everything that's thrown towards him, and Drake May is pretty accurate. So it's a very nice marriage there between the two. And also, if Keyshawn Boutte doesn't play, he gets even more target share, which is good as well. My number 1, I said I wasn't done with the Steelers, and this is why. Pat Freiermuth is my number 1 flex option. Yes, he's a tight end. Yes, he might not even be the number 1 tight end. However, this is the reason why. Allowing the Bengals, he's playing the Bengals first of all, so I can stop there. But they're also allowing the most receiving touchdowns in 23. Freiermuth is really good in the red zone. They're also allowing the 4th most 20-plus yard receptions in 34. Freiermuth is pretty good after the catch. And to seal the deal, when they played the first time on Thursday night, he absolutely went ballistic. And he was the one who was the number 1 player on the Steelers, in my opinion, that day. And coming off a bad game against the Chargers for Aaron Rodgers, Rodgers usually doesn't have 2 bad games in a row. So I get a feeling they're going to be throwing the ball a lot, throwing the ball. They're going to have to because they're playing Joe Flacco, and they can't stop Joe Flacco no matter what jersey he's wearing. So that also helps as well. So I got Pat Freiermuth. I got him in different leagues. I already have a tight end start, and I'm still putting him in my flex in almost every single league I have him in because I just see the same thing happening that happened against the Bengals the first time.
No, Pat Freiermuth was the main reason that Pat Freiermuth was who showed the Bengals who they were defensively against tight ends. And I'm with you. I have no reason. Bengals have done minimal to no efforts in showing that they've been able to stop that position. And there's no reason why I would believe that Pat Freiermuth can't repeat any type of performance that he had just a few weeks ago.
Beautiful. So those are 10 options that you have. Like we said, we did have 2 that were the same, so you may want to key in on those, and that was Woody Marks and A.D. Mitchell. 2 really, really good matchups with really open opportunities. Open opportunities. But now we're going to talk about the trade deadline. If you have one in your league, if you don't, you can call this the run to the playoffs or who to get for the playoffs. We can call it that as well. But first off, we're going to talk about a few players to target for the playoff run. And for me, I have the running backs. Out of the running backs, I have 2. One you already talked about, which was Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He has a nice matchup this week. He also has a nice matchup in week 15 and 17. Plays the Giants week 15. Plays the Eagles week 16. You're not too happy about that, obviously. But also plays the Cowboys in week 17. What do I say about the Cowboys? Start everybody. So that is a great potential matchup for your championship. If you have Bill, fire him up. And if you don't have Bill, go get him. It can't cost that much the way he's been playing. So he's a very, very easy target to go after for a playoff push. The other one I have is the Vikings' Aaron Jones. And he's starting to just become the number one, and there's no question at this point. Jordan Mason's starting to take a back seat a lot right now, especially this past game. So he plays the Giants week 15, plays the Vikings week 16, and then plays the Raiders, which is a little bit tougher, but not a crazy matchup as well. Pretty easy matchup for a running back. And he's also just coming off of getting back from an injury, so he should be good the rest of the way. That's usually how he works. Gets hurt, he plays well, gets hurt, comes back, finishes well. That's usually how Aaron Jones runs for his entire career, it seems like. So excited to fire him up as well. And again, if you don't have him, he's on his last couple years in the league. Shouldn't be too hard in a dynasty league to be able to get him for a second, maybe 2/3 even. I don't know if depending on where the other manager's at, but not a bad option to have. Any running backs you had?
Aaron Jones is a great call out. Not if he was on any team that's not a contender, I'm sure they'd be willing to get rid of him for those types of pricing. But in the same sense, he's one that you'd want to have. It's a great call out in regards to his injury history. He does have one, but he is Mr. Reliable when it comes to coming back and producing in the playoffs. So let's see what happens with Aaron Jones. And no, I mean, what hasn't been said about Bill that hasn't been said yet today. I don't like that Eagles matchup, but I think now is the greatest. Now would be the best time to get him prior to his breakout in week 1, because again, he's going against a very favorable matchup. He could have himself a really big game with Chris Rodriguez being out against Miami, and if he has himself that type of game, he's going to be more expensive 3 or 4 days from now. So if you have any type of gut whatsoever to go towards any type of running back cheaply, I think now would be a great time to capitalize on JCM with the way that he's been playing in the past few weeks, with the potential schedule that he has at the end of the season, and with the potential that he has of going off in a few days here this Sunday.
Love it, love it, love it. And then for wide receivers, again, I had 2 teams, but 3, maybe 4 if you want to consider one of them a pickup here, depending on injury. But Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews for the Ravens. They play the Bengals week 15, glorious matchup. They play the Patriots week 16, surprisingly good matchup. And they play the Packers week 17, which obviously for your championship you're not too thrilled about, but both can get in the end zone. It is a little bit tougher against the Packers, though. But love both of those late in the year. The Bengals and the Patriots are just juicy to play against for sure. And then the New York Jets, and they're both, and also before the New York Jets, the Ravens are also going to be fighting for a championship or to go to the playoffs because they started so far back. So they're going to be all horses for the entire rest of the year. And it's going to be fun to fire those guys up when they're fighting to see if they can make the playoffs or not, chasing the Steelers or the Bengals or whatever happens in that division. But they're going to have to be playing unlike most years. And then the other one I have is the New York Jets. I talked about Garrett Wilson. We talked about Garrett Wilson's injury. if he's back for the playoffs, I'm really excited to have him. If we were expecting him back, I don't know if we are not. So I'm kind of tempered a little bit more on Garrett Wilson, but AD Mitchell should not be that expensive. And also, he plays the Jaguars week 15, the Saints week 16, which is a little bit tougher, but not crazy. And then the Patriots week 17, who we've already just talked about the Ravens playing the Patriots. And that's a really juicy matchup, even though you'd be surprised. But the stats show that that is a really, really fun matchup. AD Mitchell could be the number one coming down the stretch as well. Going from the number 4-5 to the number one is absolutely crazy. And he has so much potential when he was a Colt. He had 20% target share when he was on the field. He just couldn't get on the field because of everybody else playing on that team. So he is probably, I would guess, 25-30% target share is my guess, especially when Wilson's not there. He's just going to eat up targets, and he'll be able to catch most of those balls. So I am super excited to fire up AD Mitchell if you have an opportunity to go get him. I would do it now before he plays.
Yeah, no, love the call of AD Mitch. Gave him some praise here earlier in the pod with our flex. I think he's going to have a great opportunity here. And if anybody doesn't know about AD Mitchell, I'm not saying you're going to find out, but he has the opportunity to educate a few people, and I'm looking forward to it. The other one I wanted to mention in the wide receivers is again, somebody who I mentioned a little bit previously is Stephon Diggs. Stephon Diggs has been consistent all year. Once he kind of got himself acclimated with Drake May right around week 4. He's been playing pretty consistently, and what I like most about Diggs is not only is it's a pass heavy offense, but it's an offense that is going to face a very favorable and underrated schedule for the end of the year. And he faces the Jets twice, the Bengals, the Giants, and Miami. He faces Miami week 17, so that's a lot of your championship games there. So he has a very favorable schedule with very shoddy secondaries that he's going to be going up against. And again, this is somebody who has been already consistent with some points and consistent with his quarterback. Oh, and here's another thing. Right after a bye week, they play at home against the Buffalo Bills. And if anybody has a short-term memory as good as mine, if you can recall, Stephon Diggs played the Buffalo Bills in week 5, and he had 10 balls for 146 yards receiving on the road. So if you can just imagine what he would like to do against the Buffalo Bills in his new home of New England after a bye week, you could chalk that one up as a must-start as well. So just in my opinion, I think Stephon Diggs faces at least 5, if not 6, must-start positions, or must-start in these last 7 to 8 weeks and during playoff time. So I would like to give a shout-out to Stephon Diggs as well.
Yeah, I love it. I don't have really anything else I can say about Stephon Diggs. You nailed it on the head. He has such good matchups. Quarterback's insane, as we talked about already. And even with Keishon Boutte probably coming back for then, he's still the number one target. There's no question about that, in my opinion. So fire up Stephon Diggs. Go get him as much as you can. He's an older receiver, so shouldn't take too much. I know he's playing well, but shouldn't take too much for an older receiver like that, especially down the stretch. So a few players there that have really, really good matchups. Before we go, we're going to talk about a few returning players from injury that might be able to bolster your lineup if you're able to get them now before they come back and everyone can see how good they are when they're back, if that makes sense. So my number one, and he is probably a little bit more expensive than usual, but he's probably a little bit less right now, which is Bucky Irving. When he comes back, he is one of the best running backs in the game, one of the top 10 running backs in the NFL. I think everyone agrees there at that point right now. And he was having a great season before he got injured. When he comes back, Rachaad White's played fine, but Bucky should be able to take over the reins pretty quickly. And down the stretch, that could be a huge benefit for a team that is comfortable already. You'd have to wait for him, obviously, to get off an injury, and hopefully he does. You're taking that little bit of a chance. But if he does, that could be the boom that really gets you to the championship.
It's a great call. I know I like the call, especially for the running back position. There's a lot of people who have held on to Bucky and had their seasons go a little bit south because of holding him and not having him play pretty much the entire season. So you could very well catch a team that is not in a playoff contending team, and but have an opportunity to grab him because these teams no longer need him and he's coming back. So I love the call of Bucky Irving. And again, the position of running back is always so hard to administer and adapt to. And if you can have a running back with a caliber of Bucky Irving get plopped into your lineup, and that's a huge, massive help for any playoff team. And the number one that I want to mention is Jalen Reed, the wide receiver out of Green Bay. He's currently working his way back to the field. He was recently spotted practicing doing some light work. Jalen Reed is going into a position where you could argue prior to his injury that he was the wide receiver one on a team that didn't have a wide receiver one. There was a lot of talk in the offseason of wanting to get a wide receiver one. They actually drafted 2 wide receivers in the offseason and at the draft. But Jalen Reed is able to do a lot inside the slot, on the sides, and everything between special teams. So, in my opinion, I think Jalen Reed can come back and slide right into a wide receiver one role on this Green Bay team, of a team that doesn't necessarily have a wide receiver one.
Yeah, and the 3 pieces there, Watson, Dobbs, and Reed, kind of work really well together. Obviously, Reed's the one who gets missed in the 2 wide receiver sets, but one's the kind of the scat guy, does a little bit of everything fast. One's the down the field guy, and then one's the possession guy. They all have their kind of thing they do, and the one who is that little shifty guy usually gets the most yards, usually gets the touchdowns because no one's touching him. It's just so much fun to watch him, and so much fun when he comes back. I absolutely love that call because right now no one's really talking about him. He's being under the radar. All these other wide receivers are playing fine. He might not be he might not even be he might be a second round pick maybe. I think you can get him for so. We'll hopefully he'll be back sooner rather than later. But I love that call for sure. And then the comeback of all comebacks, especially if they beat the Steelers this week, Joe Burrow is now on the field practice. And if someone is either out of the playoffs or doesn't think he's going to play and is in the playoffs, even more so, go get him. Because his stock can't be any lower than it is right now. And if he does come back for the last few games to try to make a push for the Bengals, and this is so speculative. It is so last chance, kind of like if a quarterback went down. If you had Jackson Dart or if you had Jaden Daniels and you're looking for somebody, this might be a good player to have if you're pretty secure about where you're at. So Joe Burrow would be my number one target right now if I needed a quarterback, especially in 2 quarterback league.
No, I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow. This pod knows I'm a big fan of Joe Burrow, and you nailed it. If he comes back, they're coming back for meaningful games. If he comes back, he's going to be coming back 100% healthy. They're not going to bring him, limping him in, and risking any type of further injury. So you are going to get 100% Joe Burrow coming back in desperation type games, and right there as a recipe for major wins in fantasy.
Yeah, I think that's more for a team that feels like they're going to make the playoffs, but thinks they don't have the horses to win it. Take a chance is kind of how I look at it. If you're that close this year and you don't think you're going to win, why not take that chance and don't worry about the future when you have a chance to win it this year. That's the way I look at it. So any other returning players from injury that you can kind of think of? I said Isaiah Pacheco when we were talking back and forth, but I don't know how much of the offense he actually gets when he comes back, if he comes back. He hasn't played very well this year, so that might not be a great one. But if it's cheap, why not take a shot? Is how I always say, especially with his value is already low. It's probably going to be lower being out right now, so might be able to get him for almost nothing there. So that might be one as well, but on the lower end, of course.
No, and it's one of those ones where the ball distribution is definitely at its peak in Kansas City, so you really want to play careful. But again, because of all the negatives of why we would say maybe this is something that you might not want to do, are also positives because this also helps you in regards to the price of this and how you want to pursue it.
No, absolutely, I love that call. Like I said, any other players that you had in mind, or are we good to go there?
I think we're good to go there, man. I'm looking forward to having these guys come back and making an immediate impact on our team.
No, absolutely. Hopefully, this last part is able to help you win your championship. I know it helped me when I was doing the research for it. I kind of saw who I was looking at there for my teams. And didn't realize there was a couple players here that I should be going after, which is always fun to see there. Um, so if you had anything else for today, otherwise we'll get out of here.
No, I'm happy now, man.
All right, man. Well, uh, for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty of the Mountaintops. Check us out next week where we're going to talk a little bit more trade because we're in that type of the season, but it's going to be more trade database. Who are the top players being traded and for what? And do we agree? What would we do? Things like that. So we'll talk about that next week. But listen to us on Podbean, YouTube, and Apple. Also, check us out on social at Blue Sky and X at dynastymttops. And then email us at dynastymttops@gmail.com for any comments, questions, show ideas that you'd like to hear as well. We'd love to hear any of those. Also, who are your players to go after for the playoff push here? And anything else you want to comment about. So, again, for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty of the Mountaintops. Have a great week. Good luck.
Thanks a lot, everybody.